Hi everyone, Christina Werner here. Welcome to another video for SimonsSaysStamp.com. Today I'm going to be creating another mail art video for you guys, and I'm going to make a custom envelope using the Plushoween stamp set from Mama Elephant. I thought these Halloween elements were so cute and I wanted to make a custom envelope with them. And because I'm going to be stamping those images and coloring with Copic markers, I thought it would be best to create my own envelope out of some Copic-friendly cardstock. So I used the We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board to create an envelope, and the cardstock I'm using is some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White. This is the 80-pound version. And I've actually showed how to use that punch board in the past in previous videos, so I'm going to link it up in the top corner if you want to check that out. So I started out by keeping my envelope flat. I didn't want to fold it up and adhere it together quite yet because it's a little bit easier to work on an envelope while it's flat before it's folded. So I couldn't really see the score lines on the envelope to see where I would be stamping. So I decided to put some blue painter's tape around the sides and also the bottom, just so it would give me an idea of where those edges would be. Now, if I was going to do this again a second time, I would change a couple of things for this section of my process here. First, I would not have used the blue Post-it tape. It was a little bit tough on the paper and kind of pulled up in some areas when I removed it. So instead, I would have used some Post-it tape or even just taken some colorful Post-it notes and just masked off that area just so I could see the edges more. And I also would have stamped the cat on the right-hand side a little bit closer to the edge. I originally wanted to have this banner be completely center, but then I realized I didn't need quite so much space and I ended up moving the cat over. So this whole section of stamping, like this whole scene, is a little bit off to the left. Not a huge deal, but if I was to do this again, I would change that. So I did draw a custom banner. I just used a pencil to sketch in a banner going from one side to the other. And then I used a Memento Tuxedo black marker to blacken up those lines. The Memento Tuxedo black marker is a Copic friendly ink. So when I color this banner, it's not going to smear or smudge. So I'm doing some Copic coloring. And I did really simple coloring. I didn't do a ton of really intricate blending or anything like that. I wanted to keep the colors fairly minimal and just use a few different colors. I wanted to make sure that I had a nice orange for Halloween and for the pumpkin. And I'm also going to be bringing in some purple and then just a small splash of green. And I thought this banner that goes across the scene here would be perfect for that. Another thing I wanted to mention about that banner is I chose to use 6 triangle pieces for the banner, and that's because the person who I'm sending this envelope to has 6 letters in her name. So I planned ahead and I wanted to make sure I had 6 going across. So I'm just coloring in his little nose, and I'm also coloring in the face on the pumpkin, and then I'll add just a little bit of green to the top of the pumpkin hat that he's wearing. So I moved on to the cat, and if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you know that I color a lot of gray cats, and that's because I have 2 cats that are silver tabbies, so I kind of like to color them with that coloring because I think it's a little more personal if you color the animals like the person who's like the pets of the person who's receiving the card or envelope, or if you color the animals like your own pets. I think it's a really fun way to personalize your projects. So I added some little stripes on the kitty's arms and legs and a little bit on his face as well. And I just added some really simple shading right under the mask area. I then used some pink shades for the nose and also the feet and the inside of the ears. The purple colors I'm using today are blue-violet shades, and I thought the kind of more cool toned purple would go well with that orange color that I'm using. So I'm just coloring this in, doing some really simple shading with the darkest area underneath the hat. And then I brought in some warm gray shades for the hat. And I realized as I was editing this video that I forgot to blend the bottom portion of the hat. So even in the finished photos, you'll see that it's not blended, but such a small little place to forget to do anything with. So for the banner, I used orange and purple, the same color schemes that I used on the two animals. And then I brought in this green. I thought it'd be just kind of fun to have a pop of green. I also colored all the images at the very bottom of the scene and then added in a warm gray to create the ground area. I also brought in a little bit of a darker gray for the shadows underneath those characters. So like I mentioned before, this banner has 6 sections specifically for Joni's name. And like I've mentioned in the past in these mail art videos, the person that this envelope is addressed to did give me permission to share her address in a video. So I have her permission. There's no need to think that I'm putting her address on blast on the internet or anything like that. I'm going to use a ruler, this is a T-square ruler, to draw in some straight lines. And this is just going to give me a good guide for writing on the rest of her address. I'm using a pencil just to pencil these in. I like to have a T-square ruler on hand for little areas like this. And the pen I'm using today is from Pilot. This is an envelope addressing pen. This is the extra fine version. And I really love to use this pen because it has it's a nice thick line, but it's not too thick. It's perfect for addressing envelopes, just like the name suggests. So I'm writing in her P.O. box, and this is going to hopefully arrive to her before Halloween. And I really like that this area where the address is really clean. There's not really much around it, so there shouldn't be any problems with the post office being able to deliver this. Brought in a little bit of that orange Copic marker just to put a little dot in between the city and the state, and then I put that zip code right down there in the center. I added a deliver to line up at the top just for a little more interest and whimsy up near the banner. And then I used my pencil eraser to erase those lines. I'm almost done with this area. I'm first going to assemble the envelope just so I can get that part finished. And I'm using some Express-It tape to do that. This is a really, really sticky tape. And I like that it tears. You don't have to use your scissors to cut it apart. So I just put some tape strips on the bottom panel or the bottom folded flap, and then I'll fold in the 2 sides and then bring up that bottom area. You just want to make sure you don't take that tape all the way to that point because it is kind of exposed there. You don't want it to tape to the inside of the envelope. So I added my P.O. box address, and then I decided it needed some really fun Halloween postage stamps. So these are some jack-o'-lantern stamps that I've been keeping in my stash for a while now, and I'm so glad I get to use them. And I also wanted to add a little bit near the top of the envelope. I realized that it was a little bit empty up there, so I brought in the large dots stencil from Simon, and I'm using some pumice stone distress ink and an ink blending tool just to blend on some nice polka dots. And I really think this finishes off the area. It sort of makes it look like wallpaper behind the animals. I thought that was really fun. So I am going to add some shimmer on top of the purple and orange areas on the animals. I'm using a clear Wink of Stella brush pen for this, and this adds just a nice shimmer, a little bit of glitter. It's hard to see in the video how much shimmer is actually on there, but there's quite a bit. My Wink of Stella was in good form today, and I got lots of really nice shimmer and glitter. Then brought in a little more of that ink blending down into that address area. I used a very light hand for this to keep it pretty pale. And that is the envelope for today. I really enjoyed making this little scene. I wouldn't mind doing it on a card as well. Thanks so much for watching today. I will catch you guys in another video very soon.